Welcome to The Lounge, the Her Lounge that is, where we share laughter, life experiences, and heart-to-heart dialogue. I am Lynn.
I'm Juna.
I'm Pauletta.
I'm Queasy, and we are
your four best new girlfriends.
Hey y'all.
What up,
hey
what up,
y'all.
what up?
Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday. Once again, we are -2, but +2 at the same time.
Okay.
So we still have our guys in the building with us. We just wanted to get all we could get out of them while they were here. So we got this thing that we're about to talk about here. He hurts too. We're gonna talk about divorce. Both of them have been divorced. And so I've been divorced. Pauletta, I don't know what she out here
Me
doing.
neither, child. I'm like Sarah in
Just
the
out here.
laughing.
Stop.
Laughing at the
Stop.
prophecy.
Laughing at the prophecy.
Stop.
But so we really want to talk about divorce from a man's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really what we're going to be talking about today. So, of course, our resident statistician is not here. So I'm going to take that on today. Over the last few decades, and this is from blackdemographics.com, marriage has been a declining institution among all Americans, and this decline is even more evident in the Black community. According to the Census Bureau in 2023, the ACS survey, which was released in September 2024, only 31% of Black Americans were married compared to 48% of all Americans. Half or 50% of African Americans have never been married compared to 34% of all Americans. After viewing the available data, we can see that although fewer Black women are now married, more Black women than Black men have been married at least once. This is because a higher percentage of Black women are divorced and widowed than men. Also in 2023, just under half or 49% of Black women had never been married, which is up from 44% in 2008 and 42.7% in 2005. So Pauletta, bring a counseling perspective to this, because I know you work with couples. Hint, hint, shameless plug. Mm-hmm. You work with couples, and that's actually one of your favorite demographics to work with and to counsel. And she's really, really good. And I'm not saying that just because she's my friend. Like, she is very, very good. So from a counseling perspective, what have you seen are as the major factors for demise in marriages? Like, what have you seen in your couples that you talk to, people you've encountered, that you've had to bring out of? Because I know a lot of people you probably counsel were like on the verge, and so you're counseling them to get them off the verge,
Right,
and back into trying to make it work. What have you seen are the major factors in what's causing marriages to demise?
I would say, I don't think it's one particular thing. I think it's like a couple of things. I think definitely one of them is a lack of communication. Like, nobody's talking. Both spouses are expecting the other spouse to know what's going on without saying anything. And then I think in the beginning, I think you had two broken people who were trying to get together to make themselves whole. And then I think we don't believe there's still, which is so mind-boggling, there's still a large portion of us who don't believe in marriage counseling. And so
I feel like no couple needs to get married without having premarital counseling.
Right. And then there's so many couples, like a lot of the couples that I'm working with didn't even have premarital counseling. And I'm like,
who married you?
Who married you? Because had you sat down, you wouldn't have got, I know for a fact you wouldn't have got married. And so now you're trying to make something work that should have never been together from the beginning. And so, and the other one is nobody wants to do the work. I think that we are all like, a lot of marriages are two single people living together. And I think
that's in mindset.
Yeah,
That's
in the
good.
mindset that they, I have my stuff, you have your stuff, I'm working, you're working, and we just have kids together and we just happen to live in the same house. But you're really not putting in, nobody talks about the work that goes on day one after the honeymoon. The hype is the wedding. Yeah, the hype is the wedding. Everybody's excited about the wedding and it builds up, and then you have the wedding, then you go on the honeymoon. But day one, you clocking in to work after you just got off your full-time job. And so nobody talks about the work that has to be done. So, and I wanted to also go back. When I was working on my dissertation, I found out that African Americans have a higher rate than any other demographic of cohabiting. That's the thing now, that they're just living together. Okay, and I don't even know if common law is even real anymore, if it's even accepted anywhere. But more people are just living together, and then there's also a small portion of people who are married but living in separate houses, which is crazy. I understand when you talk to them, I kind of understand, but there's still that there has to be a high level of trust there, because like. One is in McCalla, the other one is in Pratt City. But they love each other, but neither one wanted to give up their houses, and they like their space. You know, they have keys to each other's houses, but they just...
I'm not doing that.
Live in two separate houses.
It's a no for me too, dog.
I'm not doing that.
Lellwyn, you don't think you could do that?
I know for a fact I
No?
can't do that.
I could, but I'm not.
Okay. Keon, what about you? Could
I mean,
you do
why
that?
would I drive across town to see my wife?
When I
Right.
could just roll over.
And that's right. Fellowship, you know.
I got you. I got you.
And then keep it in two households.
Right.
Right.
Like, that's crazy
Right.
to me.
Right. But for some people, it works. It works. So I definitely think that if I had to pick one thing that I would say would be the major factor in the demise of African American marriages is that they're not going to counseling. Because I believe that a lot of problems can be fixed. I would even go as far to say 90% of the problems, because a lot of the problems are problems that were already brought into the marriage. And they're not marriage problems, they're individual problems that have affected the marriage as a whole. So if you tackle, and that was one thing, you know, I met with a couple for the first time like about a week or so ago, and they were like, the husband was like, well, you've never been married. I'm like, because I'm not counseling the marriage, I'm counseling two individuals who happen to be in a marriage. I said, so because what it is that you brought your trauma and she's brought her trauma, and now here we are, and it's affecting the marriage. So I'm not, what I am addressing is what you brought into the marriage.
I'm addressing the issue.
I'm not addressing the marriage. I'm addressing what has affected the marriage. And so he was like, oh, okay.
Well, see, that would be just
come
like
back?
you saying, well, that would be just like you saying, well, you've never been a counselor.
Right.
So, you know.
Right.
You know,
Right.
So,
right.
So he has to accept, you know.
Yeah, you know, so you just but I would say, I'm telling you, counseling, and it's so crazy. Before I even got into this program, I didn't even know anything really, the importance or the weight of marital counseling or premarital counseling. But now, like, and you have to have the right person, because there are some people who do premarital counseling and it'd be like, okay, well, why do you love them? Why do you love them? Okay, y'all love each other. All right. But no, you need to get it deep in the crevices of, you know, you need to talk about gender roles. People don't talk about gender roles. Like, what do you expect? Do you expect me to cook? You know what I'm saying? Do I expect you to pay all of the bills and I just pay for the gas? Or, you know, people don't talk about that. They don't talk about sex. What's pleasing to you? What are your, okay, no, we're not doing this. And you have people who aren't even sexually compatible, you know, but they're getting married. And so, you know, and you sexual compatibility, it goes because you got to think about it. Because when you're dating, it's, you know, it's like exciting. But when you're into year 5 and year 7, having the same sex with the same person, you're going to have to do something. You know, if I know, like, when you touch me on my shoulder twice and you tap it, I know, okay, he wants something tonight. You know, that's that predictable that you were talking about before.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? You know, like, you're going to have to spice it up. But, like, if we don't talk about these things during premarital counseling, like, this is what's going to happen. You're going to find two people who, like, y'all just sleeping in the same bed.
And then
you're
there's
not even touching each
what's
other.
your expectation where sex is concerned.
Yeah.
Like, when I do counseling, my thing is, okay, I have different components of what I talk about, but when it comes to the sex part, my thing I always say is sex isn't an issue until you're not having it.
Right.
But then the thing of it is what do you need? You know, because you don't want to go into a marriage, because some people go into marriage like, oh, I can have all the sex I want. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, or if you were having sex before, you know, I can go into marriage now, I can have all the sex I want with no guilt or whatever it is. But the thing of it is, if you come into the marriage and you got a man who's like, oh, I need that 4 out of the 7 days.
Right.
And you got a woman who like, child, 1 time a week good for me. You finna have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So even in counseling, those are conversations that I have. Like, what is your sex expectation?
Mm-hmm.
Like, in 7 days, what do you need? You know what I'm saying? In 7 days, what do you need? But then we also have to factor in, like what Keon was talking about, our other segment, like you got 2 people working 2 jobs, 8-10 hours a day, coming home. If you got kids, you have to factor that kind of stuff in and be realistic. So if you a person that say, look, I gotta have 4 times, and then the other person may say, well, I don't gotta have 2. Okay, let's compromise at 3.
At 3.
You know what I'm saying, or whatever. But those kind of things need to be discussed. What do you not do? What are you not into? You know, all of that kind of stuff needs to be discussed. And it shouldn't be taboo. Like, these are real conversations.
I'm telling,
because you finna be living with somebody, and when you come into, because most of us, let's be honest, we're coming into marriages, we're not virgins. You know, 90% of the population. Okay? So you got some experience, you got some flashbacks, you got some stuff you didn't delved into. So you coming into this marriage. So when you come into a marriage with somebody, I'm placing all of my needs, physically, emotionally, and everything, in your hands.
Right.
And vice versa. When that man comes into that marriage, he's placing all of his needs into your hands. You know what I'm saying? So that's the thing. So now we coming together. So if you get somebody that done been out in the world, you can't just be vertical.
Right.
All the time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Especially if this person didn't experience. This is real talk.
I mean, you
didn't
got to
experience all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then now you just want to be like
And
that.
just lay flat.
That ain't gonna work.
No, baby, that ain't gonna work.
So,
baby.
you know, it's just those kind of conversations. Those are conversations that need to be had.
You're right.
You understand what
It
I'm
is.
saying? Because you don't want somebody with you thinking about somebody else. You know, or with you and was better than this.
Right.
You know, you don't want that.
Or got to get to a place to even get excited.
Yeah.
And you're not the place
because
that they got to go to.
you're not being fulfilled. So both people coming into the marriage where sex is concerned need to be focusing on making sure each other is satisfied.
Right.
You know, but that's going to have to also be a conversation. You know, I even make people exchange credit reports. You know, I don't want to come in here, I don't know what you got. I don't need to get with you down the road and find out, you know, you got all this stuff going on. Like, I don't see it, but y'all exchange it.
Right.
Like, what's your credit like? I don't need to be putting my name on everything. You got to put your name on nothing.
Right.
Like that, even kind of stuff like that.
Right.
Needs to be
It's
discussed.
important.
And then a whole lot of families now are blended families. So how do we discipline?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But like for me, when I came into my second marriage, I had a son. And so how you going to handle that?
Right.
That's somebody else's son.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Who has been predominantly raised by his mom. So how you going to handle that situation? You have to be even wise in that. You coming in that, do you come in as a strong discipline or you come in as a friend?
Right.
It probably depends on the type of child.
It depends on the kid.
So all of those kind of things, because at our ages, most people that we're going to date or talk to, they done been married or got kids or they got some kind of past or baggage.
All the above.
You understand what I'm saying? So, you know, it ain't too many Paulettas without kids.
I'll tell you.
You know what I'm saying? You ain't got to worry about nothing.
Right.
You're like, okay, come on. That's what I want.
I'm excited.
But, you know, so, you know, all of that to me factors in to, you know.
So, okay, so this is, let's get into the meat of this because I'm excited about this topic. So, Keon, let me ask you this. What did divorce teach you about yourself?
It made me deal with the reality of things that I lacked as a man.
Wow.
Confidence.
Wow.
I had confidence in certain areas, but when it came to dealing with the reality of the emotions of what my ex-wife needed, what I needed, how I handled it, learning to take ownership for my mistakes, and truly not leading the way that I could have. So for me, it really made me look at myself, and I'm still looking at myself.
Wow.
You know, my biggest thing is it took a tragedy to put me in therapy. But while dealing with the tragedy, it trickled down to things from my childhood, dealing with my previous marriage, And currently, and I'll put this out there. You know, I told my ex-wife that I apologize because there were some things that I could have did to fight. And I take ownership in that. And that's why, for me, I can't sugarcoat my emotions. I have to be transparent with my emotions. I can't bite my tongue anymore because biting my tongue and accepting certain behaviors put me in a place of being uncomfortable with myself as a man. And
Wow.
that's not a place I want to go back to, because you're going to live in fear and you're never going to want to get married again. When at the end of the day, you know you don't want to be alone. But if you don't face your fear, you're going to be alone.
You're going to be alone.
You're going to be alone. And, you know, I know a lot of guys say, hey, I love being single, yada, yada. You know, I'm at a point, I'm going on 3 years in, I'm not finna be married by myself for the rest of my life.
Right. Like,
no.
you ready? You think you ready to get married? Let me not say, because you know
No.
you got a lot of little
No,
friends.
because
you
you just said in the previous conversation, you know, I got a couple of people I'm talking to.
No, I'm in conversation
That's a
with. I'm in
rotation.
communication with.
Communication.
No, I be serious about a rotation.
Communication.
Okay.
That's
So
my word.
communication is
Gotta rotate. I bet not.
is different than having a relationship. Like,
Okay.
you can have communication because, first of all, you got to get an understanding of what you really, really like.
Yeah.
Because I'm at a different phase in life.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then I got to make sure
That's good.
that the goals and aspirations that I have for myself at this phase in life, that they with it. Because everybody don't want to go where I'm going. Everybody don't want to move where I'm trying to move to. Everybody don't want the pressure that I want to deal with. Because my next phase of life, I'm going to be dealing with pressure. But there's a goal and a method to the madness. And so I got to have somebody that can rock with that. So I can't let everybody in. So I have to be very, very particular. Because what I'm not going to end up with is somebody that just really, really think that they just finna get this free ride. No, I need somebody that's going to add the value. Because where I'm trying to go, it's going to make good money. But I need you over here starting this company, you know, taking some of this money.
Right.
And now we got this investment going. And so when I decide to walk away from it, we got something to fall back on. So for me, I am truly looking for a helpmate that truly wants to build, but not only build, but live. Like, we gonna work hard, but we gonna play hard. Like, when we go on vacation, we gone for 13 days, 14 days. Like, no worries, no nothing.
Not just to Tennessee.
I'm trying to go to Ghana.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, you ain't going to Knoxville.
I'm trying
not,
to
but
go
I
to
get
Ghana
it.
for real.
I get it.
Like, for real. Like,
I get it.
I want to be gone.
Right.
Like,
Hey, I know what you're talking about.
I get it. Okay, Lellwyn, what about you? What did divorce teach you about yourself?
Well, before I go there, can I look at the camera and say, can the church say amen to what he just said? I feel like we finna take up offering for him. I'm your amen corner, brother. That was some good stuff. Like,
That was good.
I feel that what you're saying.
Appreciate it.
I think what it really taught me was I need to work on my communication skills, because I know sometimes, like, one of my biggest flaws is what I think, I don't know how to verbalize it. You know, you can ask me a question, you know, and I may give you an answer in my mind like, that's not really what I really wanted to say, or that's not how I should have said it, you know. And then instead of putting out a fire, I've thrown water on a grease fire, you know, and I ain't got no fire extinguisher nowhere. So,
It's
you
worse.
know, yeah. So And the fire department ain't coming.
Let me
you
ask
know.
you this, because you saying that. So are you okay? You were saying like I may have a thought, but I can't articulate it like I want to.
Right.
Is it because you're being careful, or are you being careful, and that's the reason? Like I don't want to say it because I don't want to hurt nobody. I don't want to say it because it sounds like this. Like, is that the reason why you feel like you can't articulate it the way you want to? Are you being careful, like not to hurt anybody? Like, do you feel like your straightforwardness would cut? Like,
Well, let me go back to something you said. You said like initially, like growing up, that it structures you how you are later on.
Okay.
I grew up in an era where, what your parents said, you didn't go back and forth with them. You know what I mean? When they ask you a question, you answered it, but you better answer it correctly. And I think that as I grew, I was used to that. Some things you didn't say back. So I think it kind of, not using it as an excuse, but that just kind of made me just kind of like, I don't know what to say in this moment. Because like just to be transparent.
When you were younger, you didn't have a voice.
Not really. No, it wasn't like, it was,
You couldn't express how you felt.
Yeah, not and live right here to be on this podcast and tell you about it.
Right.
So, but I mean that's part of it. But after when you become I don't want to spiritualize it. When you become a man, you have to put away childish things, as the Bible says. So that's what I have to address and look in the mirror every day and say, hey, if you're going to be that husband for that woman, if you're going to be that leader for that wife, if you're going to be that safe space, you have to be the man that God's calling you to be. So that's so I have to die daily in that area. So that's what I would say.
Well,
that's good.
Another thing I want to add something to that. When you look at it, when you really, really look at it, you have to be able to tell the truth. And most men are afraid to tell their significant others the truth. And that's a reality in 90% of households. I don't care what nobody say. I know there have been times I watch family members, cousins, partners bite their tongue because if they said what the truth really was, it would tear down their significant other, because you can't sugarcoat it. But a lot of women say they want the truth,
But they don't.
but it destroys them. So how can I, as a man, sit up here, you talking about why you ain't talking? Because if I say what I really need to say, it's going to destroy this house.
Okay, so time out. So let me ask you this. So I hear what you're saying. Now, are you saying that because this is a buildup of you biting your tongue instead of the first time that this happened, you addressed the issue? Hey, if the first time you would have addressed the issue, do you think it would have hurt as bad? You understand? Versus now, after years of buildup, like I'm finna cut you, and I'm finna cut you deep.
So it's not even I'm finna cut you deep. So, all right, understand this. So, me as your husband, okay, I tell you, in the beginning of the marriage, let's say we're a year in. We ain't got no kids yet, but sex done slacked off. Hey, baby, I know we both working a lot, but we ain't getting that QT like we used to. What you mean?
First of all, you talk to me in that voice.
I mean,
By the time you get tea off,
Right. Oh, baby, you should have said that. Okay.
I got a tea off.
Say less.
but for some, it's going
Right.
to be offensive because then you're going to think I'm being selfish and I'm not being sensitive to your needs. Well, I understand that we've both been working, that we've both been, but we aren't having that
Connection,
time,
and that's
connection.
important.
Important.
So, and it could be even as simple like I have this ideal Like one of my rules, and I know that sound odd, rules, but 3 days a week, we got to take bubble bath together.
Aww.
3 days a week. That's our quality time.
That's a big bathtub.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I am so
Y'all are using that Joy and Dawn detergent.
No.
That Mr. Bubble.
Not that.
Calgon, take me away.
But like, even if it's not a bubble bath,
A shower.
Right.
you know, that intimate time to hold, to touch, to talk, to just love on each other.
Yeah.
You know, because that is our time.
Right.
Like, and you have to create that space.
Especially when you live busy lives.
Right.
Especially
Like
when
you
you
may
live-
not be able to like get
Living
off
together.
work and
Yeah.
because you know your time may be different, but if we get a routine or okay, we get in the shower, that is intimate time because every intimate ain't always about sex.
Sex.
But
Correct.
it's connection.
Yeah.
It's
It's
connection.
connection.
Like you really have to think about it for a marriage to fall apart. It really, especially a black marriage, we'll hold on. Like I know men will hold on. Like we won't.
Some men.
Some men, they'll hold on. Some women will hold on. And it just has to get to a point where you just can't
Do
deal
it
anymore.
anymore.
Right.
So for me, there were things early on that was an issue that I let build up to a point where by the time I got to the back end, I was checked out. And I felt like that wasn't fair to her.
Okay. That's where the apology came in.
I felt like that wasn't fair to her
That's good.
because
You didn't say a lot about a lot of stuff.
I didn't say a lot about a lot, or I did say it and it wasn't received in the beginning. And then by the time she realized it, I was already
gone.
mentally
Checked out.
gone.
Numbed
Yeah.
out.
I was already mentally gone.
So the damage was already done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
That's
biggest
good.
thing is, and I tell any couple this, because I love black love, because it's a beautiful thing. But I tell people, your significant other has to be your best friend.
I believe that.
And a lot of couples make the mistake, that ain't my best friend, that's your best friend, because when them kids leave, when everybody else is gone, you gotta have that person. And it has to be the person that you're laying next to.
And then you don't want to be with somebody you just love. You want to be with somebody you like.
Right.
Absolutely.
Like even if I didn't love you, I like you.
And a friendship
You know what
is
I'm
a solid
saying? Like, are
foundation.
you still cool?
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So I think
Yeah.
that's extremely important. And I think great friendship make great love.
Mhm.
You know, not all friendship. Because, some
Mhm.
we crossed over into friendship we should, into
done,
love we shouldn't have.
Right.
But I believe that the greatest love story is birthed out of a great friendship.
Let me ask y'all this. Do y'all think y'all were ready for love? You think you were ready to be married when you got
No.
married?
No,
No?
no,
Pace?
no.
I would say no also.
Really?
Yeah.
Why you say that?
Financially, I wasn't in a place where I needed to be. I was still in school.
So was it just on some, I love this person, I want to be with him?
So, like for me, I had got out of a long-term relationship. Something traumatic happened during that long-term relationship that it kind of caused us to part, plus being young, we both still in college. And so I meet this amazing woman who has a beautiful child. We're both in the military. I was in the reserve. She was active duty. And it was like, she saw me in my dress blues and, it's just somebody saying
A
Dark-
man in the uniform,
man
baby.
in uniform.
I'm talking about a janitorial
What?
uniform, any kind.
I'm talking about just uniform. He could be a deacon's uniform.
Uniform.
I'm talking about
UPS,
Pace's uniform.
FedEx.
It don't matter.
It don't
He
even
going to
matter.
have his Walmart vest on, baby.
Uniform.
You know what? You need to stop. But it just it happened, and I think we rushed it. You know, we conceived KJ, and it was like, okay, we finna go and get married. So it was one of those things where I knew I wasn't where I needed to be. Like,
Were
to the
you
point,
completely healed from what you had came out of?
No,
Okay.
no.
Are you completely healed now from that?
No, and that's why I'm not rushing
To get into a
to
relationship.
get into like a full-fledged relationship, because I know there are things that I'm still working on with me, because my communication is not all the way where it needs to be. I still feel that there's a part of me that is angry from
Wow.
trying to figure out how to be a father and a husband, and why didn't my dad take the time to teach me? You know, so I'm having to deal with that. And, you know, people can say you got unresolved daddy issues. I don't want no man or no woman with these issues. Everybody got it.
Everybody got some
Everybody
level of
got
it.
issue. Yeah,
But
everybody
I
If
believe
you-
your person brings healing to that space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you know, whoever that person is, because you say that all the time from a counseling perspective, that your person will heal that little boy in you. You know, your person will heal that little girl in you, because all of us got a little, you know, women got a little girl,
Right.
men got a little boy. Everybody got that in them.
Right.
And your person can bring healing to that. Now, should they be totally bringing healing? No. But, you know, whoever your person is, they're going to speak to that place in you.
Right. And I'm gonna tell you, the way they speak to it is by the way they love you.
Man,
That's how.
say
That's
that,
the
say
way
that.
they.
Absolutely.
The way they love you is how they're gonna heal that little. Because whatever love that little boy or little girl needs is the love. The way you love them is gonna be able to heal them. So it's not gonna be like, you know, counseling sessions. It's gonna be like situations where, let's say, if you were abandoned when you were a little kid, like the husband will never be late. Simple things like that. You know, that's how you speak to that, you know, or if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. That's that love of healing that little girl, that little boy that was abandoned, by doing the very opposite of what was done to them to make them feel like they were abandoned.
See, that's what I know is one of my things. We're still connected to. We was talking about sitting on the porch waiting on my dad, and he never would show up. You have to do what you say you do. For me, it could be something as simple as, I'm gonna call you when I get off, and I'm not the type of person that's like, oh, you better call me. I ain't caught up in that. But when you tell me you gonna do something just that simple, do it. Or if you're not gonna do it, text and say, hey, was gonna call you, but you know, tired, you know, going home, lay down. Don't say, I'm talking about, I look at that in the very small things.
But see, for the husband,
Because
for you,
for me,
yeah,
you got to do what you say you're going to do. Like, that's my love language, acts of service. Like, do what you say you're going to do. That's huge for me. Like, be a man of your word, even in the smallest things. And I'm not unreasonable. Like, yes, you know, if you say you're going to do something you can't, that's fine. Just communicate
that you can't do.
Don't just not do it.
Don't just
and
have
think
me
that
sitting
it's
on the
okay.
porch.
Yeah, I mean, even in little small things. Just if you say you're going to do something, do it. Because I try to also pride myself in the same thing. Like, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. You know, I try to make sure I do that. You know, I try to show up in the same way that I want somebody to show up for me. So that's huge for me. Like, I'm telling you, it's 1 or 2 times of just something simple. I'm done. Like, do what you say you're going to do. I don't even want to have no more conversations, because if you can't master something small.
So, Lynn, let me ask you this. So we asked the men this. What did you learn from, what did divorce teach you?
I wasn't ready. Definitely wasn't ready. Way too young. You know, even though I was very mature, because, you know, I had been through so much trauma already in my life. So I was very mature, but I wasn't ready. And sometimes we could try so hard not to repeat a cycle, but this is what I learned. This is the main thing that I've learned. You really don't know how not to repeat a cycle that you haven't been healed from. Because if I haven't been healed from it, I really can't correctly choose because I'm choosing from a broken place. So you so busy, I ain't finna marry nobody like my dad or that remind me of my dad, and you wake up and you married to your
father.
dad. You know why? Because you never healed from him. So it's you got to heal from it to be able to choose correctly. Because you're gonna be looking through, you know what I'm saying, dirty lenses. And that's what I learned, you know. And then I also learned, you know, just the brokenness in me. I was, you know, as much as I stayed too long. I overstayed. I stayed way too long. I stayed so long that I woke up and didn't know who I was. I became a totally different person than what I was. Like when I finally walked out, I was somebody else, literally. And it took me years to get back to me because it had broke me down just that much. So I stayed too long. But I mean, of course, I never should have been, I even knew the day that I was getting married. I remember vividly. I wasn't happy. I wasn't smiling, even on the pictures. Like it was, but I felt like I had got so far out there that I couldn't come back. You know, when I could have.
Yeah.
But that's where you have a loving father that come and tell you, hey, you ain't got to do this if you don't want to. You know what I'm saying? But my dad met my ex-husband the day before we got married, and we had dated for 4 years. So, you know, and that's why another thing why protection is so important to me. You know, things are important to you based on what you've had a deficit of.
Right.
Yeah, but definitely wasn't ready, too broken to even realize the value in somebody else, to even realize the value in myself, to sell myself short. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that definitely wasn't ready, needed to grow up. I didn't even know who I was, so I didn't need to be nobody's wife because no one can truly be a wife to you if they got their own identity crisis.
Do y'all think, and this is for all three of y'all since I've never been married, even asked to be married, I'm just
It's coming.
Sarah sitting
It's
in the
coming.
tent.
It's coming.
Coming.
It's coming. 2025.
Okay.
Just put me
Okay.
on the invite list.
Yeah, I
You know
got
what
you.
I'm
I got you, man. Did you all fight for the marriage? Do you think you fought for it?
In the beginning, yes.
When God created the heavens and earth?
In the beginning, I'm just like when I was struggling, like really struggling. You know, God rest his soul, my best friend, Justin. I used to just go over his house and I used to talk to him like, dog, I'm trying to do this for my household, but I just feel so empty as a man. Like, I just feel incomplete. And so, you know, God put people in your life for a reason. So when I used to go to his house, according to how I greeted him, it's what I got. So if I was smiling, what's up, homeboy? I got homeboy conversation. If I was at that door and I just looked at him and I had that ABC store bag in my hand,
He knew.
like literally what he would do, he'll throw the blanket on the couch, throw me a pillow, and sometimes I just sleep.
Wow.
I just sleep. Like it was a struggle to fight because I didn't know how to.
Wow.
I knew I wanted to, but I just didn't know. I really didn't know how to because I just didn't have that example. Because even in my grandmother's and my grandfather's marriage, I can tell you this: I never seen them sleep in the same room. The entire time I can remember it as a child, I never saw them sleep in the same bed. My grandmother and grandfather. And they end up getting a divorce.
We ain't doing that.
Way, like, older. But here's the strange thing about love, though. This is how they were connected.
We're not doing that.
My grandmother, I think she passed on a Tuesday. No, a Monday. We agreed not to tell my grandfather. Somebody told my grandfather on that Thursday evening.
He was gone.
He never got out of bed again. I got back to Jacksonville, went to work Tuesday morning. My phone rang at 7:03 a.m. I will not forget it. He gone.
So 7 days later.
Golly.
Wow.
He found out that Thursday evening. And here's the thing, my granddaddy was full of life. He was frisky, he was hard-headed, he was stubborn, he was everything that I am.
Okay, I was gonna. Go ahead
He was
and
everything that I am.
like priests, like people.
Yes. I remember because he was being managed talking to one of the nurses that I had just saw him earlier that Thursday. I'm like,
Wow.
Granddad, leave these nurses alone.
He gone.
You too old. You can't do nothing with that young girl. I can look. I can wish. I'm with you. But the moment he found
sound
out
like
that
my
she
dad.
was gone, that man never got out of bed again.
Wow.
But that even in divorce, they still were connected by love. And the crazy thing is
That's crazy.
they still used to have coffee together. He only moved 4 blocks down the way.
How long were they married before they got divorced?
Ooh. My granddad didn't marry my grandma. She was 17. He was 21. And I want to say 50 plus.
Man, now they could have just stayed married 50 years. They were
Went
married for 50
downstairs.
years. Right.
Because they were, yeah, I want to say almost 50.
Wow.
Almost 50 years.
And they were already not sleeping in the same bed.
So it didn't matter.
So it didn't matter.
I mean, it just was one of those things that just kind of happened.
Right.
I ain't even gonna say 50. I'm gonna say 40. I'm gonna say 40.
But that's still a lot.
long time.
It's still a long
When you
time.
hear that, that's a lot.
Um,
Folks may get 5.
and for me, I guess
Okay.
I wanted to be there for my kids.
5 minutes.
I still wanted to try and provide protection because I didn't want to fail. Because, like you say, trying to break that curse, I don't want to be like my dad and have 5 or 6 different wives. Like, it's so funny. You know, me and my brother, I have a brother that lives in Huntsville, and we sitting there talking about it. I ain't even know my dad just got remarried. Like, he remarried again. And me and my brother sitting up there just laughing at each other like, I think this is number 5, number 6.
Guess he
You
said he
know?
gonna keep on going till he get it right.
I mean, I'm like, do I got any more little brothers or sisters that I need to know about? I mean,
Lellwyn, do
what's
you
really
feel like
going
you
on?
fought? Do you feel like you fought for it?
I can honestly say I didn't fight for it. Honestly, because it was more or less, it would have been more like fighting her as opposed to fighting for the marriage. That's what it was more or less about.
What you mean?
Like it was an argument about us. It wasn't about the marriage. It was like, I'm mad at you because of XYZ. You know, it wasn't the marriage. It was you. You know what I mean? So, and I was thinking like, so I was like, so if you want to leave, I ain't gonna beg you to stay. That's just how it was. You know, I'm not gonna beg you to stay. You know, like same though you walked in, you know, you can walk out. You know,
Do you think you, looking back on it, do you think you were unreasonable?
I don't think so
So basically, you never should have been married.
at all. You know, because we didn't have honest conversations up front.
Okay.
You know, like it was just, I'm trying to word this correctly, you know.
Surface?
Well, let me say it like this. You know, don't make the mistake of thinking just because, you know, you're in the church and we grew up in the same, well, we're in the same church and we have the same values, we have the same ideas.
But you don't just
But
because
you
you're in the
do
same
not.
church.
I just go to
Exactly.
the same church. That's it.
Right. You know, so that's why I would say, you know, so then once you became married, you know, it's like,
figure out.
yeah, you figure out, you know, you was raised different. I was raised different by my real mama, Not the real dad, not the dad in the sky, you know. Your dad is, your dad is bite down and whoop you. My dad is going upside my head. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. Like,
Just totally different.
Yeah, totally different. So,
and it shows up.
Yeah.
So while we right there, and we can end on this one, Pauletta, the role that childhood plays in how we see the opposite sex, and also how detrimental is past trauma from divorce in a person being able to move forward and try to love again. Like how because we already talked about, everything about us is connected to our beginning. The way we think, feel, choose, operate, move, how we see things, we see it through how we was raised, our experiences in our environments. How important is that when it comes to marriage? Because, like he was saying, he thought because you in the same church, we got the same values. But, every house has its own secrets. Right. Every house has its own culture. Right. So, bringing two homes together.
That's a lot.
You know what I'm saying? And how does that childhood, like I know for me personally, what was crazy and has always been in any relationship I've ever been in, whether it was dating and even in marriage, my lack of affection was always an issue. It was always an issue. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I didn't even, because I grew up in a house where nobody was like, I love you, or nobody hugged. Love was care. Like, oh, I know they love me because they take care of me. And grandma come to the school for my program. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? She the PTA mama, right. All that type of stuff. Right. That was how only way that I could translate love. Because I never heard I love you.
It was shown.
Yeah, my grandma first time my grandma ever told me she loved me was a couple of days before she died. And now I know that was because she knew she was finna go. When I was walking away, she's like, I love you. Like, it stunned me. Mm-hmm. I stood in time because I had never heard that. I knew she loved me. And people would always say, oh my God, your grandma love you. People would say that, from her conversations and stuff like that. But, never. So coming from that, when I got in relationships, like all the way down to like affection would irritate me. Like, that's crazy. I'm serious. Like, even him saying, when he was like, hug, you be like, leave it, that was me.
All day.
Oh, no. You know, like that, man. Why you looking at me? I really used to do that.
Right.
Like, why you looking at me? Or stuff like that. Just not even being able to accept a compliment. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? If somebody, oh, you pretty, I'm always going to be like, go on now. It just can never be, thank you.
Right.
So not even realizing that those were issues and problems because it's just who you are.
I'm going to give you another scenario. Even someone who was raised where there was no lack in the house versus someone who was raised in survival mode.
Yes.
Those are two totally different dynamics. You have someone who doesn't know what lack is. And you have someone, all they know is lack. So even the way you spend money, the way you save money, the things you want to buy, the things that they're like, no, like that's too much. Like, and you're like, let's just live. But they don't even know what the concept is of how to live. And it's like living with someone with a poverty mindset, so either they'll hoard everything and not spend anything or they'll be too frivolous, so there's so many things and factors that can come into a marriage. And that's why going back to, what we started off this session with is how important premarital counseling is. Like another thing that I do in premarital counseling is I have a histogram, and the histogram is like, it's like the piece of paper with a family. It's a family tree. That's the best way to describe it. It's a family tree. But under the family tree are lines. So like if you'll put your grandfather, but you'll put alcoholic, abusive, molested, then you'll have your grandmother, alpha male, and all these other things. And then when you look at the whole tree, then you get down to you, and you can see why you are the way you are, and then
That is so good.
You exchange histograms, and now you see what you finna get.
That is
But think about it.
That's
Because
good.
you see people at the wedding, but you see their representative. But when I see on paper that
This is who you are.
everybody
And
in
you
your family
bringing
is alcoholic.
all of this with you.
All of this is coming with you. All of this abuse, all of this trauma, this is coming with you. But we standing up here smiling at each other because we so in love. No, you in love with my trauma. And you've fallen in love with the representative who is just protecting the trauma. And you see the trauma day one when we come back from the honeymoon. And you're like, whoa, who is this? But this is this person who is on this histogram, this is who you've married. And so when you do something like that, you get to see
why everybody looking like that. Everybody looking like that.
Need some more water.
But I'm saying, when you do that,
That's so good.
then you're looking at
The truth. And you may not get every component that's on there.
But you gonna get
the
some
potential of it,
and
just
it's
know
gonna
it's there.
make you realize,
That's good.
yo, my family jacked up. When you start looking at, but you need to know who the family you marrying into.
So, like in your marriage, what part of your childhood showed up that contributed to the demise? Keon, I want you to answer the same question. What part of your childhood showed up in your marriage that contributed to the demise?
I guess I can freely talk about it now because both of my parents are gone. They can't do nothing.
They
to
can't
me.
get you.
Yeah. 'Cause I think it was the disconnect. There was a disconnect in
your household?
Yeah, there was one already there. You know what I mean? That we saw.
What do you mean?
A
disconnect, like what? Y'all just functioned?
Well, I would say if I was to give it a title, there wasn't a deep connection within my parents' marriage the way I thought in my mind it should have been.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, I think my dad was headstrong. My mom was way smarter than my dad. And he felt some type of way about it. Wow. Which he shouldn't have, because she was like, look, I'm trying to help you and us. But he felt like,
He couldn't.
I'm the man. And she like, this ain't about that.
Yeah.
So she just kind of gave up with a lot of stuff like that. So it caused a disconnect. And
you saw that.
Versa. Yeah, and vice versa, and the headstrong woman, she like, you're not gonna talk to me no any kind of way, while you trying to be the man, like, I'm looking at this right here, so then it festered over years.
Okay, and you saw that.
And I saw that, it was kind of history repeating itself.
In your marriage? In
my marriage.
So who were you, your mom or your dad in your marriage?
I was the worst of both.
Really?
Because I'm half my dad, half my mom, on both sides. I can be the loud, boisterous, laughing guy like my dad, but I can be the yelling part about my dad too. And the same about my mom. My mom, I could be quiet and reserved, but when my mama fed up, like I said, everybody taking covered in,
So you was a part of both of them.
So
Wow.
so I felt like I was doing the worst of both. Wow. So yeah, it was. I had my part in it too.
We all do, Even though for the longest I used to be like, but yeah, you did. Yeah. Everybody had. Yeah. Keon, what part of your childhood showed up in your marriage that contributed to its demise?
I will have to say, and I love my mom to death. The lack of affection that I felt like I should have got from my mother. So affection is a big thing to me. Being nurtured is a big thing to me. And not nurtured like raising me, but like nurturing the man in me. I didn't have a lot of that. I had a grandmother who for years rolled my mom back about not putting my biological father on child support. She didn't believe in it. And my
She
mom,
probably felt like if he don't want to, I
Well,
got it.
no.
Did she feel like that?
No, it wasn't even that. She just felt like you just don't do that to me. That's where my grandma
Wow.
was.
That's different.
Yeah. So, and then being the child, out of all of my father's children, I'm the only one he didn't claim. Growing up in a situation where I lived at, my brother and sister who I'm connected with now. So, like, I lived in a cul-de-sac. I walk out my cul-de-sac, go up the hill, a quarter of a mile up the hill.
That's where they were?
That's where they lived at. And I was not allowed to have communication, talk, play with them per him.
Were you a love child?
So I was the child. Well, my mom, from what I was told, my mom was the only woman that he really couldn't manipulate and control. So,
But he wasn't married.
no,
Okay.
no, not at that time.
Okay.
He was divorced when they conceived me.
Okay.
And it's so crazy. My dad was all-world athlete. Supposed to go to college, play football. My oldest brother was conceived. He decided to go in the military, so he didn't get to go. You know, it's like all of us, all of the males have been like top tier athletes. Like even down to my boys. Like it's just in the DNA. But the one thing that I noticed in my cycle, being the child that he didn't claim, I think I'm the only one that went in the military out of all the kids.
Oh, wow.
So I had a situation that I put myself in where I lost an opportunity to go to school and play ball, and I chose to go in the military. But it wasn't because I was having a child. It was a situation I put myself in. And, you know, I look at it now and it's like, this is crazy.
And if you see the way that he supports his sons, it's bananas. You can, now hearing this, now I'm like, oh.
It makes sense.
I mean, like he goes hard.
So you just have sons?
Yes.
How many sons you have? 3 sons.
Yes.
Okay.
I
What
mean,
you
goes
got?
hard in the paint.
I know
Yeah.
you got-
Don't talk.
I know you
Don't talk no
got-
child support up on me.
So it's really kind of hurtful when you think about it, because he wants to have a relationship with my boys. But my boys feel like, well, until you get right with my dad, like, we understand you're our grandfather,
But-
we can't rock with
I'm
you
rocking
like
with
that.
my dad.
So I'm going to make more
That's
of an effort.
Off.
I'm going to make more of an effort to try and fix that, because as I get older, with the way life is going, I need my kids to not have any regrets and wish they had got to know their grandfather. You know, it's funny how God worked with both my boys going to A&M. Keon getting ready to head up there in May. My brother being there. So now my dad actually goes up there and sees my brother. So they're going to be around. So that relationship eventually is going to have to happen.
So your dad is in Huntsville.
No, my dad is in Birmingham.
But
Okay,
he
but
was-
he goes
he's
up
going
there.
there.
Okay,
But he,
gotcha.
my brother lives up there, and he, you know, he'll go see my brother Kevin,
Okay.
or you know, different stuff like that. but I know he's gonna come see his grandchildren play because he came and saw them play in high school. You know, he came a few times to watch me coach, and I didn't even know it because he never saw me play.
Wow.
But he came. I found out from my mom. My mama saw him at a game, and she asked him, "You gonna say something to your son?" Like, I think it was my first game, my first home game at Fairfield, and he was there. I didn't even know it, so my mama told me.
Wow.
And she didn't tell me until like a year later. You know.
Wow.
So it's just one of those things where you learn things like I do. I love my kids. Like I pour into my kids. My ex-wife, she pours into the kids. Like we both, she had a disconnect with her father.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and just being honest, I love my father-in-law. Like, I can't believe there was a disconnect, you know, but there was.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't hold that against him. And, you know, I used to encourage her, hey, fix it.
Encouraging her, but you.
But I was encouraging. So I was that person that was preaching but not practicing.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to own your own bull crap sometimes.
Oh yeah.
It's hard because you don't want to admit that you are flawed. Yeah. Like you gotta look at yourself and be like, man, I'm broken. Like that ain't easy to say. It took me 45 years to get the courage to say I'm broken. I need help. Somebody please help me fix it.
Please. This was good. This was a really good conversation.
Very good.
This was really
very
good.
good, y'all. I think it's just have all you want. Here's a halls. Anybody want one of them? Ricola. Yeah,
we should do that commercial.
Like the one I gave you that
They're one of
Y'all
our sponsors.
Been around each other too long.
It's not like it's not like that. Take it. It's not like the one I gave you that day. It's like a strawberry.
That's one of our
now
sponsors.
Now it's gonna open your nose, but it ain't like that one that I gave you that day that you was like that. So, this was an amazing conversation. Y'all know you all could continue following us on all of our platforms on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram at the Her Lounge Podcast. Once again, thank you guys so much for being with us. Y'all was just. I think y'all needed this.
We ain't gonna charge y'all for this session.
I just believe some healing came from these sessions, but you all added so much value and gave us insight as women. I hope that we did the same for you all as men. So that was. Right. You said what?
Y'all did all right.
We did all right. I was thinking it was a great exchange. It wasn't a great exchange.
It was amazing.
I'm
messing with you.
Good.
I appreciate it.
Good. Thank y'all so much. We appreciate you guys. So you all come see us back in the same space, same place on Thursday. Thank you guys. Have an amazing week.
Go do that.
Thank y'all so much.